The bandwagon effect. The bandwagon effect is following what others do without considering if it's right for you. Reflecting on your own desires rather than blindly following others helps avoid this bias. Survivorship bias. Survivorship bias is only noticing successes and forgetting about struggles and failures. Researching both successes and failures can provide a more realistic view of a situation. Action bias. Action bias is feeling pressured to act even when doing nothing is a better choice. Considering the benefits of patience and inaction can lead to better decisions. The framing effect. The framing effect is when decisions are influenced by how information is presented. Considering information from multiple perspectives helps make more informed decisions. The decoy effect. The decoy effect is when introducing a less attractive option changes your preference between two others. Evaluating each option individually helps make more informed choices. The paradox of choice. The paradox of choice is when having too many options makes it harder to make a decision. Limiting options can simplify decision-making processes. The end of history. The end of history. Illusion is when you believe who you are now is who you'll always be. Embracing change and recognizing that preferences and beliefs can evolve helps combat this illusion. The unity principle. The unity principle is being more persuaded by people you feel are part of your group. Making decisions based on information rather than who presents it can lead to more objective choices. The mere exposure effect. The mere exposure effect is the tendency to develop a preference for things merely because you are familiar with them. Being aware of this bias can help ensure that your preferences are based on actual merits rather than familiarity. The false consensus effect. The false consensus effect is when you overestimate the extent to which others share your beliefs, attitudes, and behaviors. Being mindful of diverse perspectives and actively seeking out opinions that differ from your own can help avoid this bias. Avoiding loss aversion. Loss aversion is when fear of losing something motivates you more than potential gain. Focusing on potential gains rather than losses can help overcome this bias. The Dunning-Kruger effect. The Dunning-Kruger effect is when people with less skill overestimate their abilities. Consulting with experts when making important decisions can provide valuable insight. The gambler's fallacy. The gambler's fallacy is thinking past events affect future ones. Remembering that each event is independent helps make decisions based on logic rather than false patterns. The sunk cost fallacy. The sunk cost fallacy is when you keep investing in something because you've already put so much into it, not because it's the best choice. Making decisions based on potential future returns rather than past costs helps avoid this fallacy. The Diderot effect. The Diderot effect is when getting something new leads to wanting more new things. To avoid unnecessary spending, be mindful of how one purchase can influence your overall spending habits. The halo effect. The halo effect is when your impression of someone in one area influences your opinion of them in other areas. To avoid this, judge each situation or person based on its own facts, rather than relying on general impressions. The IKEA effect. The IKEA effect is when you value something more because you put effort into making it, like assembling furniture. To avoid overvaluing your work, get feedback from others to see its true worth. The ostrich effect. The ostrich effect is when you ignore bad news or feedback, just like an ostrich burying its head in the sand. For instance, avoiding checking your bank account because you don't want to know how much you've spent. To deal with this, it's important to regularly review your situation, even if it feels uncomfortable. Inability to close doors. The inability to close doors is when you struggle to make decisions because you fear missing out on other opportunities. For example, trying to work on 3 business ideas at once because you don't want to lose progress on any of them. Focusing on one thing at a time can be more effective. The overconfidence bias. The overconfidence bias is when you overestimate your abilities, knowledge, or the accuracy of your predictions. Seeking feedback and considering alternative viewpoints can help maintain a more realistic perspective. The endowment effect. The endowment effect is valuing something more because you own it. Seeing things from an outsider's perspective can help avoid overvaluing possessions. The reactance bias. The reactance bias is wanting to do the opposite of what you're told because it feels like your freedom is threatened. Focusing on the benefits of actions rather than reacting against authority can help overcome this bias. The Pygmalion effect. The Pygmalion effect is when higher expectations lead to better performance. Setting ambitious goals can significantly improve performance. Self-serving bias. The self-serving bias is when you credit yourself for successes but blame outside factors for failures. Taking responsibility for both successes and failures helps avoid this bias. The spotlight effect. The spotlight effect is when you think people notice your mistakes or appearance more than they actually do. Remembering that others are usually focused on themselves can help reduce anxiety and let you focus on what you're doing. Beware of chauffeur knowledge. Chauffeur knowledge is when someone seems smart but doesn't really know much about a topic. They're like parrots, repeating what they've memorized without real understanding. To identify them, ask more questions since they can't give deep insights. The contrast effect. The contrast effect is when your judgment of something is influenced by something else you've seen recently. For instance, a realtor showing you a terrible house before showing you the one they want to sell, making the second house seem better in comparison. Confirmation. Confirmation bias is only noticing information that supports your beliefs. Actively seeking out information that challenges your views can lead to more well-rounded decision-making. Avoiding the bystander effect. The bystander effect is being less likely to help someone in need when others are present. Addressing requests to specific individuals can increase the likelihood of assistance. The curse of knowledge. The curse of knowledge is assuming others know what you know, leading to unclear communication. Putting yourself in your audience's shoes can help improve communication. The consistency principle. The consistency principle is the desire to be consistent with what we've previously said or done. Having someone hold you accountable can enhance commitment to your goals. Reciprocity. Reciprocity is feeling like you have to give back when someone gives you something. To avoid this feeling of obligation, consider if you genuinely want to reciprocate rather than acting out of duty. The curse of specificity. The curse of specificity is when detailed information seems more persuasive, even if it's not relevant. For example, giving unnecessary details to make a story more believable. It's important to focus on relevant information to avoid this. The Zeigarnik effect. The Zeigarnik effect is remembering uncompleted tasks better than completed ones. Planning ahead and organizing tasks can help manage this bias. The ambiguity effect. The ambiguity effect is avoiding choices that are unclear, even if they might lead to better results. Assessing the risks and benefits of ambiguous options can lead to better decisions. Negativity. Negativity bias is when you pay more attention to negative events than positive ones. Shifting your perspective to focus on positive events and being grateful can help counteract this bias. The anchoring effect. The anchoring effect is when your first impression shapes your subsequent thinking. To avoid this bias, evaluate each option independently rather than comparing them to the first one you see. The hindsight bias. The hindsight bias is believing you predicted an outcome after it happens. Acknowledging that outcomes are not always predictable helps avoid this bias. The planning fallacy. The planning fallacy is underestimating how long things will take. Adding extra time to plans can help reduce stress and improve time management. The availability heuristic. The availability heuristic is when the likelihood of events is judged based on how easily they come to mind. Seeking out actual facts and statistics before making decisions can help avoid this bias. The illusion of averages. The illusion of averages is believing that average numbers tell the full story. Digging deeper into data can provide a more accurate understanding of a situation. Comment what you think and which one or ones you are guilty of. Many of these principles are covered in more detail in my longer videos. If you're interested in learning more, check out the playlist on your screen. Thanks for watching.